One thing you should master if you want to achieve that C2 level of proficiency is how to use inversion. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. What normally happens in a statement is that the subject is followed by a verb. For example, Anne goes to the gym every day. So Anne is the subject, whereas goes is the verb. Now, sometimes when we want to shift the emphasis within a sentence, we usually use inversion. And just like the name says, inversion is when the word order of a sentence is inverted or reversed. Okay, so there are two main types of inversion. The first one is when the verb comes before the subject, which is often optional. For example, in the doorway stood Anne, or in the doorway Anne stood. Both are correct. Now, other examples of this would include along came Mary, or there goes Anne. The second type of inversion, which is usually necessary, is when the auxiliary verb comes before the subject and the rest of the sentence. So you could only say something like, never would I have thought that I would be a professor someday. So switching the order of the sentence here wouldn't be acceptable at all. So you should not say something like, never I would have thought. No, this is incorrect. Never should you say something like that. The funny thing though is that, and it may come as a surprise to you, but I'm sure you already used inversion even before knowing about its existence. For example, someone says, I'm tired, and instead of me too, you decide to apply with so am I, which is short for so am I tired. Or I went to the gym. So did I, which is short for so did I go to the gym. And just for the record, these examples also fall within the second category I was talking about, which by the way is the one you really need to pay attention to, since as you may have noticed, the main verb tense changes with the addition of the auxiliary, right? I understand that at this point you already know how to use auxiliary verbs, so there's no mystery here. You just have to do the same thing you do when you want to create a sentence in the interrogative form. So let's take a look at the example I used earlier. Never would I have thought that I would be a professor someday. Now, the normal order of this sentence would be, I would never have thought that I would be a professor someday. Okay, now a very common example used a lot in spoken language. Instead of saying, I'm passionate about linguistics and I love reading too, you could say, and this would sound much more natural, not only am I passionate about linguistics, I also love reading. One more, but now in the past. She worked at a fancy restaurant and she was the best chef they've ever had. Not only did she work at a fancy restaurant, but she was also the best chef they've ever had. Now that you got the gist of how to use inversion, I want you to sleep on it for a while, and in the comments give me an example using the construction not only but also. Try to talk about things that are true to yourself, that way not only am I gonna learn something about you, you're also gonna learn inversion for real, since as you may know, we retain information more effectively when it's meaningful to us.